I went to the NFL game where the Detroit Lions ran Aaron Rodgers out of Green Bay.
You Deed, Oren here. We're going to do one final mock draft of the Detroit Lions. I just completed a series where I did the other NFC North teams, and we pretty much learned, in my opinion, where the Lions are going to be competing with Green Bay to try to get a tight end, competing with Minnesota to get a cornerback, and competing with Chicago to get depth in the trenches. So Oh yeah, and this first pick is going to be the final piece of the puzzle to the Matthew Stafford trade, which will forever be associated with the legacy of Brad Holmes as a general manager because he's in that Matthew Stafford trade. He's already got Jared Goff, he's got Ifeatu Melifonwu, he's got Jameson Williams, and now it'll be this one final player to complete the puzzle. Unless, of course, they trade down and get a bunch of other picks, in which case the equation will become more of a calculus equation and still become longer and ongoing. But in my mock draft here, I do not have that as the case. So, oh, and I also did not draft a quarterback in this one because I think they're going to sign Teddy Bridgewater right around that time. So, without further ado, let's. It's almost here. The draft is almost tomorrow. So this is my final one. This is not necessarily what I think is going to happen, nor do I think it's what I want to happen. It's just a Lions mock draft, We're just going to have fun with it. So let's get into it, and I'll show you what I did. All right, so who is this final Matthew Stafford trade pick? Last time I did Witherspoon, and next time I did a Lions mock draft, I wanted to put Christian Gonzalez in there at number 6, just to give him a turn, and that way, because it's 1A, 1B for cornerback. But when I looked at the Lions updated top 30 visits players, I noticed a bunch of cornerbacks that were projected to go in the middle round. So players like Emmanuel Forbes, Clark Phillips III, and those type of people, which tells me I don't think they intend to draft a cornerback high in the first round. So, and you remember what I keep saying, instead of trying to draft for position of need, it's better to draft for position of value. So, in the top 20 picks, so top 2/3 of the first round, so positions like quarterback, cornerback, edge rusher, offensive tackle, and wide receiver, the BPA at any one of those 5 positions. And in this one, I went with the majority of here and did edge Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech. For whatever reason, PFF has Tyree Wilson graded lower than they used to, which is why they put an F there. But that's besides the point. In my personal opinion, I think the Detroit Lions are set at edge rusher, even though people are always mocking them to them. That being said, you can never have too many edge rushers because you want to cycle them throughout your games throughout the season so that you can set up different rotate schemes for different plays to keep the offenses off balance, as well as to not wear out your edge rushers and get them tired and injured, similar to that of a running back. And to do that, you got to stack up a bunch of edge rushers and that sort of thing. And, Tyree Wilson, there's other, Will Anderson Jr. would be the unanimous number 1, but he's going to be gone at 3. I still have the top 5 being, and some combination of Stroud or Bryce Young at 1 and 2, and then Will Anderson at 3. The Cardinals don't wind up making a trade, even though they get a bunch of offers too. And then 4, Richardson, Colts, and then Jalen Carter, 5 to the Seahawks, which is funny to me because I did hear that they hired the best edge rusher coach, arguably the best edge rusher coach in the NFL, which is kind of a waste if you're not going to draft the most available edge rusher. but they decided to go with positional need for the interior instead of, going for one of the premium positions and getting the best available edge rusher for your best edge rusher coach. But I mean, thank you, Seahawks, you idiots. Thank you for letting the Lions have Tyree Wilson right here. So, but anyways, about Wilson, he's a big dude. He's heavy. He's tall. He's got the longest arms. He can kick inside and give you that flexibility there because the Lions also need help at 3 tech, so he can help do that. He's from the same school as Patrick Mahomes, and the Lions play the Chiefs, so he might know a secret or two about Mahomes that could help the Lions beat the Chiefs. And and he's the BPA at a premium position, which is, in my opinion, what you go for at the highest spot you can. So that's what I did there. And with the 18th pick, I did this with my previous Lions mock draft. I traded down, and I did so again, but for different things for different teams this time. So the Dallas Cowboys I hear they have interest in, running backs such as Bijan Robinson or Jahmyr Gibbs, one of those top 2, as well as guard O'Cyrus Torrence or even Steve Avila, ranking them over him. And I have them trading up to the Lions at 18 to ensure they get one of those players. And in that trade, they gave up their 3rd round pick along with their later 1st round pick. And with that 26th pick, I had them selecting Jack Campbell. So it's one of the best linemen in the draft, arguably the best one in the draft, especially like with coverage. And he could probably be the Mike linebacker. He could be Alex Anzalone's replacement one day, but not before learning a thing or two from him. But they'll play together, they'll work together, and they'll succeed together. And, he's a team leader type. And he'll probably need to develop more as a guard and all that sort of thing, but he's got like the intangibles and, the competitive spirit and the Dan Campbell type of guy there, not just because his last name is Campbell. Campbell going for the blitz. Campbell gets the sack. And then camera cuts to head coach Dan Campbell going, yeah. And we all get what the double meaning behind that. But this is late in the 1st round. They make this pick and they pick up another 3rd round and they get Jack Campbell, who is somebody that they really like at a position that they need. This is outside the top 20. So what I said earlier about positional value doesn't necessarily qualify for that. So picks 20 is where I start to draft for positional need and that sort of thing there. Now we get into the 2nd round. And I have the Lions making another trade. They've made a trade with the Atlanta Falcons to get Okudah for a 5th round pick. And that kind of broke the ice, so to speak, with the Atlanta Falcons for, I think, a potential future trades. And even though everybody assumes it's a trade from the 6th pick to the 8th pick, but this one, it's the Lions trading up from their 48th pick to the Falcons' 44th pick, so that they can cut in front of the Green Bay Packers, who desperately are looking at all the tight ends because they intend to draft that position. The Green Bay Packers won't draft a tight end at pick 42 because the Green Bay Packers are spiteful idiots. And I totally recorded this video today and not 3 days ago on Sunday and didn't have to make any last-minute edits. Hashtag FGB. And the Lions draft a tight end. The tight end they draft is Sam Laporta out of Iowa. And then for this trade, I did for the compensation pick 48, the 5th round pick, one of their day 3 picks there, and then their 3rd round pick from 2024, not the Vikings one, but their other one, because the Vikings pick, if the Vikings are worse this year than the Lions, then the Vikings pick will be more valuable. So you'd want to trade the other one. But anyway, Sam Laporta, first and foremost, I know a lot of Lions fans, myself included, we've been saying we don't need a tight end because we saw Brock White, Zylstra, Mitchell all do a fantastic job. We saw them help beat the Packers in their first meeting at Ford Field last year, and we saw the tight end do. I think it was Brock Wright had that game-winning run against the Jets there. So that's convinced us. We didn't need T.J. Hockenson, and we don't need a tight end. But reality is the Lions are looking at a lot of tight ends throughout this draft process, and I think the reality is we're just going to have to accept the fact that their Lions are going to probably draft a tight end at some point, because I looked at Brock Wright's PFF stats, and even though he's technically an inline blocker, it looks like his PFF grade for like the blocking part of it wasn't really good. So I'm thinking they'll probably want an upgrade with that. And Sam Laporta is, pretty decent at blocking, but I think the other inline blockers, the tight ends, the line for the tight end, the position the Lions have, are good at that. But they're getting Sam Laporta for one specific skill that he has, and it's his ability to break tackles and his yards after catch and that sort of thing. So he'll be a decent weapon, a passing weapon, like in the middle and on the seams and all that, and he'll break a lot of tackles. And I think I mentioned before, the Lions are not only trying to win the turnover battle, but the tackle battle, where they want their defensive players to make tackles while their offensive players try to break tackles. And Sam Laporta is one of the best in the draft at doing that. Probably the best tight end in the draft at doing that as well, because I think he ranked like second or something like that in that category. And not only that, Sam Laporta is a Dan Campbell type of guy in kind of the ways that Josh Pasco was last year, where he's like, a team captain and all that stuff. He wins awards for his hustle and all that sort of stuff. And that's the kind of example that you want to set for the Lions culture. So, Sam Laporta is the tight end pick here. We're gonna have to get used to this, Lions fans. Even though we seem like we did all right at tight end, and I think James Mitchell could emerge as a starter, I think the evidence is out there that they're probably realistically going to draft a tight end at some point. And then for their other second round pick, the TJ Hockenson pick, this is where I address the defensive interior. And this is kind of the Moneyball philosophy taking place here. Siaki Ika, Baylor, basically nose guard type, big dude. He has some pass rush, but he's really known for being a big guy who can be a run stuffer. And I know we've all been talking about like getting a pass rushing interior type of lineman, but the Moneyball analogy I made where because he's the last one there, the last lineman there at that spot that's really any good at being a defensive lineman. And I think we're probably in this case, the Moneyball analogy is you can't find a slugger to replace a slugger, so you go with 3 on base people. Since the Lions already have Tyree Wilson to pair with Aiden Hutchinson, 2 good edge rushers there, then that's more than enough pressure to be able to get the quarterback, and you can use this defensive interior spot to help stop the run, because even though we talk about pass rush through the interior, we often forget that stopping the run was still an ongoing problem for the Lions. And Siaki can really help with that. And then he would play Aleem McNeil's old position, and McNeil would wind up being the 3 technique, who has shown flashes of pass rushing before and is at this point in already experienced and really good player. So that's kind of what I see that could possibly be happening. And both McNeil and Siaki could really stop the run up the middle there with that. And most importantly, Siaki can easily draw double teams. And the more linemen you have drawing double teams, the less pressure you have for players like Hutchinson, who can have an easier time getting into one-on-one matchups to be able to get to the quarterback. And with that, the defensive line is complete. even though I don't really believe in being complete with just a whole bunch of starters, because I think if you can cycle players throughout the game that to match and keep confusing the offense and that sort of thing, I think that's the best thing. But yeah, Siaki will help stuff the run. He'll draw double teams to make life easier on other players, especially linebackers who are trying to blitz and trying to watch the quarterback for coverage and all that. So, and Jack Campbell there now too. But yeah. And then round 3, I stopped drafting Tanner McKee here because a cornerback was still in need, and I feel like Bridgewater will probably step in right around the draft time. And this is where I got Garrett Williams out of Syracuse. He's somebody else that the Lions have visited with, and I think the main quality that Garrett Williams has is his mirroring ability. Basically being able to go toe to toe with wide receiver. So it appears he split time with man coverage and zone and other things like that, but not too many snaps in man-to-man, press man, which is what the Lions will be running, but enough to show what he's got. So, and he is, I think, 5'11", 5'10", or something like that. So he's a little bit shorter, but he's still effective enough to do what the cornerbacks should be doing when you're playing press man. And he'll be somebody that the Lions will have signed beyond 2024. And hopefully he'll develop into somebody who can do a really good job. And he can learn from players like Cam Sutton and the other cornerbacks who are not the tallest, but learn to work with what they have and that sort of thing. And then the other 3rd round pick that was acquired from the Cowboys trade that I did. This is where I addressed wide receiver twice in this draft, and this is the first one. Because of the Jameson Williams suspension situation, the NFL is probably thinking, "Ooh, we got the Lions good with our complicated rules and suspending JMO, and that's gonna rattle the Lions and make them change their plans and have to draft a wide receiver early." And the Lions are going to be like, "Nope, we're not going to be scared off like that by drafting a wide receiver early." So they'll draft a wide receiver right around the time that they expect to. However, because the other Lions are players, most of them were wide receivers that are now gone, they'll probably have to address wide receiver depth, like Quinn Cephas and that other guy. And that's something that does happen in this draft, but that's like later on. But anyways, this first wide receiver, Xavier Hutchinson, wide receiver, Iowa State. I talked about him a lot in association with the Bears, just because, the Iowa and Chicago, I guess they're really connected and all that. But hopefully the Lions can get somebody like Xavier Hutchinson, because I watched his tape. I think he could make a good X receiver who can play basically in any scheme. He's 6'3". He can make good contested catches. He's pretty fast. He can run the routes that you need to. And I think he'd be an all around good depth wide receiver there. And he can possibly do some damage for the Lions. And he's a good wide receiver that's not really talked about. Some places have him ranked higher, whereas PFF has him ranked like really lower. But he's one of my favorites. And plus, like Campbell, Jack Campbell, Dan Campbell, you'd have Aiden Hutchinson and Xavier Hutchinson, confusing the heck out of the announcers who are like, Hutch leaps up, grabs it, touchdown. So the marketers for the Detroit Lions, the people in charge of marketing and all that, would probably love the multiple names for all that sort of stuff. It would be good for their SEO stuff too. All right. The day 3 picks. I had them going tackle / guard, Jordan McFadden, Clemson. McFadden is somebody that the Lions have met with multiple times. The Chicago Bears have met with him. I think the only other players that the Lions have met with multiple times were Emmanuel Forbes and Darnell Wright. So But McFadden, he'd be versatile. He can like play a lot of spots, and he'd be really good at like pulling, for screenplays and that sort of stuff. So, I got them here. He's a priority for them, I think, in the day 3, or maybe possibly late day 2. So that's another name to watch there. And then, oh yeah, the other round 5 pick is gone because that was traded up as part of this round 2 trade, which I think is realistic because when they acquired this pick with the Jeff Okudah trade, that they had flexibility with that other 5th round pick. So this is a round 6 pick. This is where I addressed the other wide receiver, Jake Bobo out of UCLA. I looked up his PFF stats. He could be a potentially good X wide receiver. Bryce Ford Wheaton from West Virginia was already gone when I did this mock, so I went with Bobo here as, they're like yin and yang for me. So Bobo was 6'4". He has a good contested catch percentage, and he'd seem like he'd be doing a really good job there too. It helped DTR's stats quite a bit as well. So another option for like an X receiver, or hopefully, other positions as well. I think he played slot too. I could be wrong though. And then the final pick, get out of there, is also from UCLA guard Antonio Mafi, who is really good in the running game. And I've talked about him a lot before. So back-to-back UCLA. They continue to address O-line depth with Mafi as well as McFadden. These are diamond in the rough type of picks that Brad Holmes is famous for trying to get, and Mafi could prove valuable there, should the likes of drawing a blank on the Lions offensive guard's name that got injured. But if he gets injured again, but I'm thinking he won't, and he'll come back and he'll be borderline all pro. But in case he doesn't, then we'll have a couple of these developmental people to plug in, and hopefully they'll do a good job and rotate the other people that were signed there. So that's right, guys. That's my final mock draft. So the NFL draft starts tomorrow, and I've been looking forward to this for quite a while, and I still feel like I have no idea what's about to happen, but and we're all just like ready to get this ball rolling and see what happens, and continue the rebuild while at the same time getting very, very competitive, because the Lions are close. And yeah, I changed my mind on Goff because I thought they were going to try to replace him this year, but he's proving that he's, I think, going to be the guy. And hopefully Bridgewater will make a good backup, and we won't have to worry about quarterback for a while. Because I think Bridgewater is just kind of waiting to see what we do with the draft and with the quarterback. And in this draft, obviously, you don't see a quarterback drafted, which proves to be in good faith. And I also have good faith in DeAndre Swift, and that he's going to have a good year because, the Ford Field turf that was there in the past, which probably factored into his injuries, is gone. And I think he will thrive, and he'll kind of be like that. What was the name of that Saints running back that was super good? Alvin Kamara. I think he'll probably fit that role real well. And it'll be like what Dan Campbell witnessed when coaching under Sean Payton. And, his offense will finally be like that version of it, and they'll still put up a lot of points. And while the defense will be improved quite a bit, and they'll be good enough to complement that really good offense, and we'll get into the playoffs. We'll win the NFC North. We'll win a playoff game, and we'll make an appearance in the divisional round playoff games, despite JMO's suspension. So I don't think JMO's suspension is going to give the Lions too much trouble into the start of the season, just because, they have really good depth in their offense everywhere. Like they can They still can run the ball really good with Montgomery and all that. And Josh Reynolds is a reliable wide receiver. St. Brown will still do his thing. It's just they'll probably get a little bit more pressure on those guys without having the speedy receiver to stretch the field and give them somebody to worry about to have to play deep on. But we'll see how it all plays out. And yeah, I think that's all I have. I'm probably going to be a trade at some point, and we'll see how that happens because we know Brad Holmes and like he loves to be mysterious, and that's part of the fun of keeping track of all this and the poker game that goes on there. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. Will there be trades? Who will they draft for positional value or position of need? Will they acquire players in trades? Anything can really happen at this point, but the draft is tomorrow, and it's going to be interesting no matter what. So go Lions, one pride.